This is Sam Piazza interviewing Mr. Nimrod Davis on June 20th, 2009. Sir, can you just tell us what your name is?
Nimrod Davis.
And, sir, how old are you?
83.
Where were you born?
Watersville, Maryland. That's about 3 miles east of Mount Airy.
Is that in Frederick County?
Carroll County.
I was in Carroll County. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah.
And have you lived in Carroll County since that time, the entire time?
Not completely. I've lived, I worked for a company after the Korean War out of the county, and then I moved back in 1967.
Where did you live out of the county? In Frederick County?
Where did I live that other year?
Yes.
Texas, Maine, Connecticut, Pennsylvania.
You moved around a lot.
I was working for a pipeline company that moved jobs in different places.
Now you said that did you serve in World War II?
Yes.
And what branch of the service?
The Navy Seabees.
Did you join, or were you drafted?
I quit school in the senior year and joined.
Were you 17?
17.
And you served the rest of the war?
Rest of the war until April of '46. I got out.
And then you went, and then you joined the Army. I'm sorry, joined the Navy again when the Korean War started.
Well, you were right. I did join the Army.
I did join the Army. Okay.
In between there, in '47, I joined the Army and had a permanent job at Fort Meade.
Oh, so you were with the Army for how long?
3 years.
Your experiences during World War II. Where were you stationed?
Several places. Hawaii. Well, a lot of places in the U.S. Camp Perry, Virginia, Endicott, Rhode Island, Gulfport, Mississippi, Hueneme, California, and then we went to Hawaii. Then went to Tinian and built the airstrip that the atom bomb went off of.
Oh, okay.
In Tinian, and then we went to Okinawa.
Did you know they were building the atom bomb?
No, we knew that the B-29s were coming there, and which they did. And the B-29s were there a long while before we left. Went to Okinawa. Was
the airstrip built for the ability for the larger planes to land on in that area?
What size was it?
No, what was the airstrip built so larger planes could land in that area?
Strictly for the B-29s.
Okay.
They were built on Guam, Tinian, and Saipan. There was 7 airstrips on Tinian, and the island was only 12 miles long. 7 airstrips, 8,500 feet long.
Were you an engineer, or were you an engineer?
I was with the engineering department and surveying.
Now, Okinawa, describe that for us. I mean, what was your experience there?
Well, they took most of the engineers from Guam, Saipan, and Tinian to Okinawa to do a topographical survey on the island, because that was supposed to be the jump off to invade Japan. So we went up there when they had already, the battle was going on, and they were going both ways from the center, so we were working surveys from the center, all topographical surveys both ways.
How long did you do that for?
On Okinawa?
Yes, sir.
I was there from the first part of May, the first week in May, until November, after the war was over.
November 2005? I mean, November 1945?
45, yes.
So you said you were born in Carroll County. Do you have a large family?
My family's been here since, everything that I have tells us that the family's been here since 1783, but there are also some records that show that some of the family was here in 1763.
Interesting. Let me ask you, how do you know they've been here since the 1760s or between the 1760s and 1780s?
My great-great-great-grandfather, Zachariah Davis, had property, farm on just off where 27 is now in Mount Airy. In fact, that's part of the property that the county is buying right now from the 40 West builders at $23 million purchase.
Oh, okay.
It's the lower portion of that.
Did that property stay in the family for a long period of time?
For a good while. Then he died, and then I think one of the daughters married an Englander, and he bought out the rest of the family, and where it went from there, the Spurriers, I think, were there, and the Clarys, and what have you. But
Where did your ancestor come from? What country did he come from?
England. Sir Thomas Davis owned the Virginia Company, and his first ship he sent to the U.S. was John Smith at Virginia, and then Thomas Davis came in 1607 to Virginia.
And that's your relative? That's one of your relatives?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So your family has been here since the 1600s.
1607. Mm-hmm.
Now, do you know anything else about your ancestors for the last couple hundred years?
Well, they know that they know they've kept track of some of them that moved. They moved north. Some ended up in down the eastern shore here. Some ended up in around Bowie and that area, and one of the Davises from that area moved to West Virginia and got in the coal and timber business, and in fact he ran for vice president one time. But
do you remember who that was? The name of that
I'd have to look back to find his first name, but I'm not sure. But he gave probably a large portion of the money to start the Davis Elkins College in Elkins, West Virginia. In fact, about 10, 12 years ago, they completely redid one wing of that college, which is named after him.
Do you know who, when he ran for what vice president, what election that was?
No, we have the records of the date and who the president was, but I can't keep all that
I understand that.
in my little mind.
I understand that. Do you know if it was in the 1800s or?
It was in the 1800s.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, did any members of any Davis family members stay in Carroll County?
Oh yes, the Davis family has stayed here since 83. And maybe since 63, but since 83 definitely we know. Zachariah's son was Amos Davis. That was my great grandfather, Amos Davis.
Did you know him?
No, but I was born in 1925, and most of those people died. Amos Davis had one son, Nimrod Davis, and when Amos Davis died, Nimrod Davis had been a farmer, and he bought brothers out and farmed that farm, and that farm is now, the burial ground is there, and it's called Dove's Landing, the development on Cabbage Spring Road off of Gillis Falls Road.
Were you named after your great-great-grandfather?
No, it was my great-uncle, Nimrod Davis. He was the son of my great-great-grandfather.
And you didn't know him either?
No, but I knew his, my great-great-grandfather had a son named Francis T. Davis, and I knew his son because he was my grandfather's brother, and used to see him all the time.
Did you know your grandfather?
Oh yeah, I knew my grandfather from the time I was old enough to on up until after World War II.
What did your grandfather do for a living?
He farmed, but he also worked for the B&O Railroad. He had a small farm, like 90 acres.
In Carroll County?
In Carroll County, yeah.
Do you know where it was located?
Yeah, just below Watersville. And then, well, several Davises. August Davis had a 90-acre farm right next to it. We had 13 acres right next to that.
Your parents had a 13-acre farm?
Farm with a barn, and I've been milking a cow. I've been milking a cow ever since I was 10 years old.
Let's talk about the B&O Railroad. Were there actually jobs in Carroll County for the B&O Railroad back then?
Yeah, my grandfather worked as a section hand and a foreman on the B&O Railroad on the track, and my father was a brakeman and then a conductor on the B&O Railroad 44 years.
Where was that located in Carroll County?
Well, they worked out of Baltimore, but the people that did the maintenance of way worked in certain sections, like there was one from Mount Airy, and there's one from Watersville, one from Woodbine, one from Gaither. They all had a short section there.
Were these passenger trains, or were they trains to transport goods?
Well, when I was young, in the 30s, especially the mid to early 30s, there was several passenger trains a day went, long passenger train. They had 6 or 8 coaches because they went from Baltimore all the way to West Virginia someplace, or because the B&O Railroad followed the Patapsco River right up, went through Sykesville, Gaither, Woodbine, Watersville, and Mount Airy.
So there were stops along those at those locations?
Yeah, they would. Of course, Watersville had a little, you could call it a station, but it was a stop where the farmers put their milk and everything, and you waited if you were riding a train in there. But the big trains usually never had passengers that stopped. They had some big trains like the Columbian and all those that had maybe 3 or 4 or 5 coaches. But then they had smaller train that had 1 coach.
Do you remember riding the train yourself back then?
Oh, I rode the train for free. We rode for free to Baltimore.
Oh, because your father worked for them.
He had a pass, and my mother always had a pass.
I mean, was that the primary means of transportation back then, riding on trains if you had to go any distance?
Yes, anytime you wanted to go someplace, if you didn't have a car, you caught the train.
When did that all go away in Carroll County? And the passenger trains, when did they go away?
When did they get rid of it?
Get rid of it, yes, sir.
1954. By that time it was, somewhere preceding that, they built, the main line went through Washington and up, and they met at Point of Rocks, the old main line and that main line. So most of the big passenger trains went through there all the way to Chicago or St. Louis or whatever.
So they just stopped using the railroad tracks through Carroll County?
No, the B&O, the freight.
The freight did?
Freight, it was strictly freight, and in those days it was, half a dozen trains a day. They hauled all the coal out of West Virginia, and Ohio came to Baltimore for shipping out.
Do you think something was lost by those passenger trains not coming through Carroll County?
What did you say?
You think something was lost by those passenger trains not coming through Carroll County?
I think so, because everybody in Mount Airy, and from Mount Airy on down that worked in Baltimore rode the train. And the train had it set up so it could get to Baltimore before 9. It got there at 8:30 in the morning, and it left around 5 in the evening.
So it was perfect. It was perfect for people
working.
Perfect
for people working there. Of course, at that time, probably 75% of the passengers were B&O employees. So they weren't making much money on the train.
So after that, I'm assuming people had to take their cars to get to work every day.
Oh, they should have it right there now for people going to Baltimore or places like that. The railroad is still there, and the train could carry people from Frederick to Baltimore.
Now, you were born in 1925, and did you have brothers and sisters?
There's 7 of us. I'm the 3rd from the top. 2 daughters before me and 5 of us boys.
Do any of them still live in Carroll County?
there's only 3 living, and they're all 3 live in Carroll County.
Now, tell me about growing up in Carroll County in the 20s and the 30s. What was the experience like growing up during that time period?
Everybody was poor. Almost everybody. No, it was very nice. We went to Mount Airy School. The road from Watersville to Mount Airy was dirt road in the 30s up until almost 40. And the one hill, if the bus started spinning a little, the big boys had to get out and push the Model A Ford bus up the hill.
Oh, what happened when it rained? If it rained on that road, it would.
Oh, it got slippery, and because it was a dirt road.
Right.
And then they finally, somewhere around late 30s, the WPA did a concrete road from Mount Airy about a third of the way to Watersville. So part of it was concrete.
Oh, so that's how it got paid by the WPA.
That portion of it did, yes.
How was going to that school? Was it a one-room schoolhouse type of thing, or
No, it was all 11 grades. It was only 11 grades back in those days because they cut out the 12th grade in every county in the state.
Oh, do you know why?
Because of the Depression.
Oh, okay.
They cut it down to save money, and the only area that had 12 grades was Baltimore City. But you had 11 grades, but now our school, we had one, the 3rd grade was in a, well, now you call them
Like a trailer?
Trailers like, but this was a building.
Oh, okay.
A little building. It was the third grade was in that building. And then in 1933, the school burned down. And
Do you know why it burned down?
they never found out. They never knew why it burned down.
So they didn't know if it was intentional or something just caught
Well,
fire.
There was rumors about one guy in a senior year or close to the senior year, but it was never proven or nothing. And everyone went to school that year while they were building a new school in little rooms down in Mount Airy, and I lived in Watersville, so we walked to Woodbine, which is only about a mile and a half. We walked to a one-room school.
Where was the new school located that you went to?
Built right where the school is there now. The elementary school is right now where there are 11 grades were.
Was it only an elementary school once they rebuilt it?
Oh, no.
I mean, it was still 11th grades.
I think 69 was the last high school there. And then everyone moved to South Carroll. And it all became elementary or middle for a while. And then they built a new middle school there.
Did you have an opportunity to later on to see what schooling, the type of schooling you had, and the type of schooling that I don't know? Did you have children, sir? Did you have children?
Well,
yes.
Yeah.
Did you see that what their schooling is compared to the schooling you had?
I don't know. I think that we had small classes. All the classes were 31, 32 people. And my kids went to school, 2 of them went to school in Baltimore. Not, but all high school, not the whole junior, the young years. But they had large classes, and just, it seemed to me that they didn't, in some ways they got a better education, but in some ways they didn't get as good. I think they don't do the multiplication table. They can't give you change at a cash register and things like this. And when we went to school, it was a multiplication table right up to the 12/12s, and we had things like current events in high school. We had a little newsletter every week with all the current events that were happening when Social Security went past in 37 or 37, I guess it was. Things like that. you kept up to date on current events.
And you didn't see that when your kids were going to school?
No, I've never seen anything like that. I don't know whether I don't remember them having anything like that. But they got good educations. I have a daughter that's just went through high school, and she's a $92,000 a year senior project manager for Blue Cross.
Oh, good.
So, and my other daughter's wouldn't go to college. She went to South Carroll, and she's been with the same company 35 years, and she's up in that range. Plus, her boss just gave her $100,000.
Oh, good. That's good.
Well, spread it over 10 years.
Sure.
It's there for her. We did that to keep her there until she's 65.
Right.
Because she runs the company.
Yes, sir. Now, you said you grew up poor. You said everyone was poor back in the 30s. Is that because of the Depression, or just how the economy of Carroll County was back then?
My father was a brakeman on the railroad from 1921 until 32, and in 1932 he got laid off, and he was laid off from the railroad for more than 2 years. I think 32, 33, and he went back to work either 33 or early 34.
Why was he laid off? Because of the economy?
Because of the economy, and trains didn't run that much.
What did he do during those 2 years to make money?
Well, he worked on farms, because you could always find a job on a farm. And he worked for WPA. That was big. That paid $2 a day. Of course, back in those days, where I lived, everyone canned enough food to eat all winter. And you raised your own pigs and had your own cow, and you had all your milk and your pork.
So you don't think it was as tough on you as it would be if you would have lived in a city somewhere?
Oh, no, it was tougher. We knew people. We had distant relatives that lived in the city, and they loved it when they could get out to our place and just spend a couple days or something.
Let's talk about the farming back then. Your family's farm and the farms that surrounded you. What did you grow, and what livestock did you have on the farm?
Well, actually, our little 13 acres, we grew everything we ate.
Corn?
Potatoes. No, we didn't grow corn to sell or anything like that. We grew potatoes, all the potatoes, 40, 50 bushel a year, and everything we canned. But my grandfather, he just, I think his 90 acres was almost a hobby, because he worked for the railroad and he never was laid off. He was a section hand, and he grew corn, had a couple of horses and a couple of cows, and he sold butter, and I don't know whether he sold milk or not, but he sold butter. I know, made butter. But the big farmers around, they grew corn for their own use, and mostly, and of course, every little town had a canning factory back in those days, so every farmer grew peas and tomato and corn.
Now, the canning factory nearest to you back then was in Mount Airy, or was it Westminster?
Had one in Watersville.
Oh, Watersville. Okay.
They canned mostly tomatoes there, though. And but every other Woodbine, Mount Airy, they had factories that they canned peas, corn, and tomatoes. And
did your family use those facilities to sell their products, or they? Because when you said your family canned things, you canned that on your own, right, for your own use?
Well, we grew our own garden,
right,
and enough to can green beans and tomatoes and things like that, and corn, and we had enough to eat till the next year.
Oh, okay.
By canning, my mother canning.
Now, when you traveled to a town nearby, would it be Mount Airy? That's a town you would go to?
Well, Mount Airy was the big town.
Was a big town?
No, the big town was Frederick.
Frederick. Would you go to Mount Airy more often or Frederick more often?
Probably Mount Airy, because you could walk.
You could walk there. How
3
far
miles.
were you from Mount Airy?
3 miles.
So describe, if you can, Mount Airy back in the 20s and 30s and leading up to the time you went into the service.
Well, the Main Street was fairly busy all the time, but Mount Airy, Saturday night was the big night. The train station was, people were all down there hanging around, and cars all on both sides of the street, and everybody was doing a little bit of shopping or groceries or whatever, and the movie had a movie theater, 15 cents to go to the movies.
Oh, so how long was that there, the movie theater?
The movie was there from the time I could remember on up until, I think, good while after World War II, up in the early 50s maybe.
Is the building still there?
The building's still there, yeah. I think the Masonic Lodge owned the whole building. They met upstairs and the theater downstairs.
Do you know what the building is being used for now?
The last time I was by there, it was a new auto parts. It was downstairs, and I think apartments upstairs. Or one apartment, and then the Masonic Lodge was still.
Now, were there dirt roads or a dirt road in Mount Airy back then? Or?
No, I don't remember any dirt roads in Mount Airy. They were all paved in the 30s.
So other than the movie theater, what other type of restaurants and stores were there?
The carnival once a year.
Oh, the carnival came to Mount Airy.
Oh, it was a big carnival.
Is it a fall or a spring or summer? Or?
It was in fall, early fall, and one of the girls became state beauty contestant winner, and she ended up in some movies in Hollywood. She went. I know. I saw her in two of. I can't think of the two comedians.
Laurel and Hardy?
No. Who's on first? And she was in two of those movies. Those people I know, and I don't know what else. But
do you remember her name?
Yes, and I just saw her for the first time since back then. I just saw her about when her brother died.
Oh, she lives in Carroll County?
She did. She still, as far as I know, her brother died. And I just can't remember her name offhand.
It was Abbott and Costello, wasn't it? She was
Abbott and Costello. Yeah, she was in two of those movies. And, her mother owned a tea room in Mount Airy where, the tea ladies went.
Right. Well, how long was the tea room there? Do you know? How long did the tea room stay there?
Oh, it was there way after World War II.
Was there a bank in town also?
There was a bank in Mount Airy, yes, and a mill where they had flour. You could buy flour there, where the farmers all bought corn or whatever in and got feed for their livestock ground.
Was there a rendering plant there? Would they pigs and that type of thing? Was there a rendering plant somewhere in Mount Airy, or did they do that on the farms?
No, we butchering. When you killed hogs, you did it right on the farm.
Oh, okay.
Or right wherever you lived. Almost everybody that lived out in the country butchered 2, 3, 4 pigs every year.
For their own use and for sale?
For their own use, mostly. Very few ever sold.
Now, Mount Airy back then, was there electricity in town then?
Mount Airy had electricity, but Watersville didn't until 1937 when Mr. Roosevelt passed the, what do you call it, the something farm...
it was a farm act of some kind.
Electrical Farm Act or something, and that was in 37, I think, and that's when we got electric.
So did you have outhouses back then? Did you have outhouses at your house?
Yeah, we had outhouse, and if you were a young boy, you had woods all around.
But everybody did back then, right? I mean, that was everyone had that type of setup back then, right?
Yeah, everybody had an outhouse.
I mean, this was mostly farmland back in the 30s?
Yeah, well, the little town of Watersville had about 15 houses that were right in the town, and a church and a store, and that was the town. But everybody that lived in that town butchered. Everybody had a large garden, and most of the men. It was actually a competition as far as who had the best looking garden, who had the first tomatoes, and that type of thing. They strung a line when they planted. They didn't just plant in a row, haphazard, because it had to look right.
Right.
It was really competition.
Was there a countywide fair back then?
No, the only fair, the countywide fair, was up in Tonytown, and Tonytown's the only town that had a place big enough for a fair or a fairgrounds.
When did that start? When you were a child?
Well, in high school, all of our all of your sports. In the fall, you had competition, or in the spring, really. But everybody went to Tonytown. Of course, Westminster beat everybody because they had the most people and had the biggest boys and most people to draw from. So it was tough to beat Westminster.
Were there minor league baseball teams or football teams in Carroll County when you were growing up?
There were a lot of baseball teams. There was the Tri-State League. Or Tri-County League, rather, had Mount Airy, Imesville, Watersville, just Woodbine. Had a whole bunch of teams, and it was the same way all around. At one time, one of the best ball teams in the state was Spring Grove State Hospital. But they always bought their pitchers, they said. They could have beat the old WWII Orioles most any time, I think.
Now, did any of those players ever go to the majors?
The one guy from Mount Airy was picked by the majors, and he went to training, and he died from alcohol, too much alcohol or something. And I won't mention his name. But,
No, I understand.
But an excellent ball player, a fielder.
I guess what I'm asking is, were those teams, what are the minor league teams of today, or they were used by the major leagues as minor league teams, or?
Well, most of the big major league teams had a lot of minor league teams all over the country. Little teams in West Virginia and Maryland, and they just worked their way up. Some went up and some never went up. But I knew people that went to those from these Tri-County and those teams that went to some of those. I guess you'd call it. I don't know what they called those teams back then. WWII was the minor league.
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure what they called those.
But these would be big events, attending these baseball games back then?
Oh, yeah. We Watersville gave up the team, but Woodbine, I helped to build it. They set up in a farmer's pasture down at Lisbon, and we built bleacher seats and the big backstop, the fence and everything.
So it's permanent. They built that to be there permanently?
Oh, we put it in there permanently, and
Oh.
it stayed there for quite a few years. And I had some Woodbine that had some really good ball players.
Is that how they did it throughout the county at Westminster? They would basically use farm fields and build baseball fields out of them?
Westminster wasn't in that county league, that Tri-County League, I don't think. It was mostly down in the lower county and then over into Montgomery County. And I guess, and some up in the edge of Frederick County, because Mount Airy part of it was in Frederick County. So it was those three counties.
When did those leagues go out of business? They stop playing?
What'd you say?
When did those leagues stop their playing?
I think they stopped somewhere not too long after World War II. I think they just quit.
These are all volunteers, or were they being paid to do this?
Oh, yeah. everyone except Spring Grove Hospital, they claimed they paid, everybody said they paid their pitcher because they were a hot team, and the Baltimore area had some hot teams. Johnny's Used Cars was one of the hot teams.
Okay.
And I know he paid some of his players.
But they were supposed to be amateurs.
Yeah, they were all amateurs, but they, of course, I don't know what they paid them, $10 a game.
Right. Did you have football too back then? I mean, were there football teams?
No, there was no. In fact, like I said, the state cut all the schools in every county except, of course, Baltimore, down 11 years, and there was never any football from 32, I guess, on up until after World War II. In those counties, the only football was in Baltimore. There was no baseball; it was strictly softball.
After
Softball, all during the 30s, the schools were strictly softball.
You know why that was?
Well, because baseball, you get into baseball, you got to have better bats and more balls and I don't know, more uniforms and whatever. And with softball, you played in your own shorts or your own, depending on the weather.
Right.
You took your shirt off, went out and played.
Right.
When you slid in a home, you might have mud on you instead of dirt.
When you returned from World War II and I guess Korea, did you see major changes in Mount Airy and that area that you lived around?
Not real big changes. I stayed several years after World War II, right at my father's place, a couple of years, and I looked around and was thinking about staying here, but I moved down towards Baltimore for a while, and then I moved back up here, and then I left, went in the Korean War,
and then you moved back here permanently in 1967.
67.
How about when you came back in '67? Where did you move when you came back in '67?
Eldersburg, Sykesville.
Did you visit your old stomping grounds and see how it was in Mount Airy and that area around there?
I used to go there quite a bit because I had cousins and cousins and cousins up there, and I would go up and spend the weekend sometime. I had different cousins and aunts and uncles. And
was it still basically a farming community, or had it changed?
It even up in the up in the 50s, there wasn't much change around Mount Airy that I noticed, or even Westminster when you came there. I guess there might have been a little bit more businesses around, but the same old people were there still in the 50s. That Smith and Wagner had the grocery store, but then I think the supermarkets started coming out somewhere around that time, and that killed some of the smaller businesses.
When did you see the major changes occur?
I think the major changes was probably around 1970, as far as I'm concerned. When I saw the first fire plug in the cornfield in Eldersburg, I knew we were in trouble.
And what type of changes start occurring in the 1970s?
Well, mostly building. See, back around 70, the only high school in South Carroll was South Carroll High School. Because Mount Airy closed, the high school, and Sykesville. So I think '69 was the first year they went to South Carroll. and there was no signal lights or red lights on Liberty Road. It was a 200-acre farm right where the Carrolltown Mall is now, and that Carrolltown itself was nothing but cornfields and what have you, and houses were only on some of the small streets, and
that's how it was through the late 60s, early 70s still?
like what?
Is that how it was through the late 60s and early 70s?
Oh yeah, in the early 70s on through, and they just started as soon as we got water in and septic and what have you, then things really started booming, and actually it even slowed down a little now because I was on a committee that worked with the state roads on what to do with Liberty Road, and we came up with 3 different scenarios, and they finally settled on one after several meetings, and the county pitching in money towards that, the engineering. But then of course there's no money now, so I might never see it in my lifetime.
Well, since you brought it up, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that committee. That's the Freedom Area Citizens Council.
Yeah.
When did they start? Why did they start?
Actually, a guy named Daniel Hughes. Dan Hughes came up with the idea, and he came up with the name that I didn't particularly care for, but we called it Solutions for a Better South Carroll. And
when was that? You don't remember when that started?
16 years ago. Because we had a meeting last year, and the president gave me 5 minutes to give a synopsis of what happened the last 15 years.
So it was 1993?
About 92 or 93, I think.
But what was the I guess impetus behind starting that? Why was it started?
Well, it was different things. One of the things was Dick Yates was a commissioner, and Dell, and I think Brown, but I'm not sure. But there was 21 acres where they're building the senior center in South Carroll now. Was given to the school board, and the school board gave it to the county because it's conservation land and there's no sewer there, so they just couldn't build a school. So they wanted to sell it, put it up for auction, start at $325,000. Now 21 acres, $325,000. When you stop and look at it, at Eldersburg, we thought they were crazy.
You thought it was more expensive than that?
I mean, we told them 10 years, if you go to someplace and buy 21 acres, you're going to pay probably $1.5 million to start. And right now, I see a piece of ground coming up 97 at Route 32. There's 12 acres, and they want $500,000 an acre.
Yes, sir.
$6 million for 12 acres. So we just got a group of people together, and we beat on Yates and Dell, and beat on them until they I think they had put it up, start the bid at 325, and they just finally gave up and dropped it. So sewers just went by there, and the county's building the new senior center there. Now, if the county had to go out and buy enough ground to put that senior center, it would take at least 5, 6, 7 acres, maybe more, because it's a good-sized building, good-sized parking lot. They would pay quite a price for it. I don't care where they got it. When you pay $500,000 an acre up on Route 97.
Yes, sir. So when did the Solutions become Freedom Area Citizens Council?
We Dan Hughes left and went out west, and I became chairman. And we worked through charter. We were for charter, and we put out a newspaper back then, a bi-weekly newspaper, and everything went pretty nice. Of course, we didn't get charter, and a little later on, they were going to build quail meadow below us there, and never seen a quail there. I've seen a lot of pheasant, but no quail.
Yes, sir.
But Carolyn Fairbanks became the chairperson after me, and somewhere along the line, it just worked out to where instead of being Solutions for a Better South Carroll, I didn't particularly care for that to start with. I thought it should be something different. But Carolyn came up with Freedom Area Citizens Council, and
is the primary purpose to control growth in the county?
well, control growth or put it in the right places, not just slap it down every place or whatever, because being unincorporated, Eldersburg had no say about anything that happened. And of course, we had a couple people wanted Sykesville to incorporate Eldersburg.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you know, annex it, and that would be like the tail annexing the tiger.
Yes, yes. Do you think the group has been successful in trying to control growth?
I think they have definitely gotten to the point way back where the commissioners listen to us, and they have what they call the COG, the Council of Governments, and Freedom Area Citizens Council sits on that. They're non-voting because they're not a governmental town, but they sit on that, and you know, and they're listened to, and we've talked about incorporating, but to start with, it would cost about $120,000 just to survey the perimeter and get that set up. And in fact, one guy wanted to give us the money to do it, and but he might have had strings. That was one of the guys we didn't want to get involved with.
Yes, sir. Now that group was involved in the Piney Run lake situation.
Oh, we really went after that.
Can you just tell me what that was about, just briefly, and what did the group do?
Well, that was Mr. Dell and Robin Fraser wanted to put water there, and the reason they wanted to do it because there was two builders right beyond it that one had 200 acres and one had a 194-acre farm, and well, they were raring to go and get water out there because they had to build on acre-and-a-half lots or something. They got water, they could go on half-acre lots. And the sad thing is, in this county, if the area calls for R40 or R50 or whatever, they redo it and give the county a little piece of land, and they'll cut it down to a third of an acre or something in a lot of developments.
So the Freedom Area Citizens Council believed that when they had to control growth, they had to stop that from happening.
You can't control growth the way, in fact, if you look at all the statistics and everything that's happened in the last 25, 30 years, builders have ruled the country, developers. But we got that stopped. We had 2,500 people showed up at that rally, and Freedom Area Citizens Council put out a newspaper, a really good newspaper there for a good while. But it got to be too much work selling the ads to get the paper printed and what have you.
But you're still an active group.
Oh, the group, the woman that's running that now, boy, she's, I wouldn't want to be married to her, I know that. She's a go-getter.
Well, let me talk this one. I want to go back about your family church. The Davises have been going to a certain church for a long time. What is that church?
Well, evidently they were primitive Baptists, probably back then, because Amos Davis, who owned the farm up where on Cabbage Spring Road, a couple hundred acres where Dove's Landing has been built since, large homes. He wanted to build a church, so his first cousin, Henry Shipley Davis, who owned, I think, about 1,000 acres right south of that, almost to Mount Airy, down to almost Watersville, he gave the 2 acres for $1 or whatever, however he did it back in those days. And Amos put up the $750 to build the church. And Henry Shipley Davis even had slaves, so they built a balcony for the slaves to go to church if they wanted to. And the building's been there ever since, and it's called the Davis Meeting House and Primitive Baptist Church.
What year was it built?
1857.
So and it's still there now.
Oh yeah, it's still there. Original. There's been a few changes, like it did have a raised metal roof, and it had 2 chimneys back then. They took one chimney down, and the roof got so bad they just put a regular asphalt roof on.
So you said that one of your ancestors had slaves, and that's how they helped build this church. But they also built a balcony so that the slaves could actually attend church.
Yeah, that's Henry Shipley supposedly had around 20 slaves, and I think he grew a lot of tobacco and what have you. In fact, one of his relatives came year before last at our, in '07, at our 150th anniversary. She came down from Wisconsin, and I took her up to the people that owned the house that was Henry Shipley's house. It was a log house then, but it's been covered, and she spent the night with them there. Okay. And went back to Wisconsin the next day.
Slavery was legal in Maryland through 1863. So during that time period of the Civil War, was there any kind of dissension within the church about pro-Confederate or pro-North that you were aware of?
I don't know. I'm sure Maryland was, sort of neutral in the Civil War, and but the church has not only helped to build that church. I mean, they helped to build the Piney Run, the Pine. There's a stone church in Mount Airy. I think it's called the Piney Run.
Is it a Baptist church?
No, it's Methodist.
Methodist, okay.
I think they helped the slaves from his farm helped to build that church out there.
Any other things that you can recall about your church and involved in any activities or?
Well, it's been different religions used it. We back in our young days, nobody even we just called it the Baptist Church, and all the young people with cars used to park behind there on Saturday night. Not all, but a few. Of course, I didn't have a car before I went into service, so I never parked there.
Never parked there. Well, let me just one final question. What is it about Carroll County that keeps you here, and why do people move here instead of other places in the state of Maryland? Do you think? Why do they move here?
Oh, I don't know. I've been I've been in or through every state in the country except Wyoming. And I've been awful close to that. And I've worked in probably 20 different states. And they can talk about the mountains, and they can talk about California. I got married and went to California, stayed in Santa Monica on the beach for 2 years, and came back in 56. But Carroll County and the Piedmont running from Pennsylvania line down into Virginia through Frederick and all Frederick County, to me is the absolute best part of the United States. I don't know of any place that might be nice places to visit, like the beach or the mountains or what, but this country here is just, there is no other country in the United States like it. It's all good farming country. It goes right on down into Virginia and up into Pennsylvania ways, and the whole Piedmont is just fabulous. And you got the mountains here if you want to go to the mountains, and I've spent a lot of years up there hunting and fishing, trout fishing, and I've spent a lot of time at the ocean way back. What's right here in Carroll County is, or this end of Frederick County is, it's God's part of green earth, I think. It's just great country, and the people are great people too.
Well, sir, I'm sorry. I appreciate you coming in today, and thank you for your time.
Well, I enjoy talking about Carroll County. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you, sir.